Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Purple Corner, a podcast about all things literature, storytelling, books, movies. I don't know. We'll see where we go. I'm Prakriti, and I'm talking today to Andalip Wajib, who's one of India's best authors. I like to think of her as India's Jane Austen of today, because a lot of the stories, not all, she writes across many genres, but a lot of the stories I read of her have been these light, observances about contemporary life, romance, young adult life, which I really enjoy reading. She's written 35 books, so of course this interview is not going to cover all of that. We are most excited about her book Asmara's Summer, which is being adapted as Dil Dosti Dilemma and dropping on Amazon Prime tomorrow. This is not sponsored. These are just details for you to follow through.
Yeah.
Uh, so we're excited to talk about this journey of being adapted on screen. Apart from being a reader and writer and someone who can I don't want to use the word churn out. That really reduces storytelling. But someone who can write story after story, which means you can find inspiration after inspiration and bring these words and stories to life. So we're going to talk a little bit about everything. Hi, Annalie. Welcome to
Hi.
the show.
Hello. Hi, Prakriti. Lovely being here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And quick correction, I think it's not 35, it's 46 actually.
But oh, oh my God, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's
You
okay.
That is a
Yeah.
jump because I think I read a pretty late. Maybe yeah, I should have fact checked that. My bad. But
No, it's
wow,
okay. It's
you're
okay.
hitting the half century mark soon.
Probably. I don't know if it'll happen this year. It might. It depends. I also self-publish a lot, right? So that kind of also factors. But those books are also full-length novels, and like each is around at least 65 to 70,000 words. And I put
Wow.
as much effort into it as much as. The only difference is that I don't work on it as long as I would with an editor at a publishing house. And
Got it.
books which come out with publishing houses take longer to come out, while those which I self-publish, I can bring out one in a month if I want to, but I'm kind of holding back.
How do your fingers not pain by typing that much?
Fingers, shoulders, they all hurt. So that's why I'm kind of I'm taking it slowly. I'm like, okay, age is also catching up, and I want to do this for a long, long time. So let's not. There's no hurry. There's no rush. I've reached beyond my wildest expectations. Like I never thought I'd write two books, let alone like 45, 46. I published my 46th novel last week. So it's like it's beyond my own expectations. I'm like, I can take it easy. I don't have to. There's no rush. So it's kind of
Well, what an
happening.
exciting month for you because you published your 46th book and one of your earlier books has become
Yeah, that's
uh,
actually, it was my eighth novel. So it's taken a long time. It was published in 2016, Asmara's Summer, and it's taken 8 years for that to happen. So hopefully after this, it shouldn't take that long. I'm hoping, because I feel a
yeah.
lot of my stories are like very. I do tend to write a lot of dramatic stories, a lot of dramatic elements in my stories, and so it should translate well on screen, I think. So
Which is a perfect segue into talking about the adaptation, which is happening, like
yeah,
coming out tomorrow.
yeah.
Uh, I You said it took 8 years, and 8 years ago, today it's a little more formalized as a space. There
Yeah.
are people. I mean, we're also very new, but there are others who do this. Who take these books to filmmakers more. But 8 years ago, that must have been a very new novice thing. When did you start the process of actually putting the word out about, like, when did that first opportunity to be adapted come to you, and how has that journey been since then?
So I didn't actually set out with that in mind. The book reached a few readers who really thought it had a lot of cinematic elements, and who they wanted to make it. They said it was perfect for a movie or TV or whatever. And there was one person, a reader, her name is Preeti, Preeti Sengya. So she is a friend of one of the producers, Seema Mohapatra. So she connected us. She said you should talk to Seema. She's new. She's like she used to be with BBC, and now she's producing. They're just starting out, so guys should talk. And I think around in 2016 only we started talking, but it took us like you know. a lot of back and forth, a lot of iterations, and like you said, it was not formalized, for a long time. And it took us quite some time, until they also were trying to find the right way of adapting it, because they couldn't just transfer it to screen the way it was. They had to add certain elements, they had to remove certain things, and I, as someone who doesn't know screenwriting, I let them do whatever they felt was right, so and then so that's the process. Actually, the actual formal process, I would say, um, formalized in 2021. So we kind of signed the final contract in 2021, and I remember it so well because I was in the hospital for my COVID treatment, and I signed it digitally. So I remember thinking this is the last thing I expected to be doing. So I signed it, and then I kind of, a lot of stuff happened in my life after that. So, lost my husband, my mother-in-law. So simultaneously it happened, and, it was just recovering from it. So I kind of put this out of my mind, didn't really want to think about it, focused on writing, focused on healing, on trying to come to terms with a very different life. And this happened. I'm very, I would say, fortunate that I had people like Seema and Jahanara, who are head 10 years younger productions, that they kept working on it in the background. They kept working on it. They kept, this is the sort of stuff, obviously, you need to be in person to do it. So I, sitting over here in Bangalore, at the most I can only offer long distance support. And they did all the running around, they did all the, getting into meetings, getting the meetings itself. So it all happened. It took its own time, took another year or two after that, I think, until Amazon greenlit it, and then they had the shooting and all that. So it's all taken its own time. And I kind of knew that it's going to take time, and I kind of just looked at it as, okay, ये बहुत लंबी रेस का घोड़ा है, just forget about it. Wherever it has to happen, it will happen. So out of the blue, they would call me with some update, and I was like, okay, it's happening. I got to know about the cast, and I was very happy, very thrilled. I didn't know any of the newcomers, but I was happy to know the older generation. I recognized whoever they were, and it was surreal that these people were going to be acting in something that was based off my book. So yeah, it's taken its own time to come into existence, but I think it's worth it.
Absolutely. And I was going to talk about that one is, you mentioned long distance support, and you mentioned changes, right? That
Yeah.
they made for cinematic
Yeah.
adaptation. So how involved were you? Like, have you seen the final script? Did you see the final script? Like, do you know the
No,
final shape of the
I
story?
was informed of certain changes. I was informed. So there was initially, like in the initial days, in 2020 or something. I don't remember the exact time, the year, but they called me to Bombay to meet with the writers, to meet with the writing team, and they just basically just to dig my brain to see what I envisioned and whatever it was. So I didn't have any clue. I just said whatever I felt about it, and I knew that there were going to be changes, and this is not something that you can, ask them not to do, because they know better. So because they know what works cinematically. I'm a writer, so the thing is that when you're writing a book, it's a very isolating and a very individual experience, And when you're writing for screen, it's a very collaborative experience. So I kind of let it go. And I mean, you can't hold on to that thing about, especially you can't hold on to something like your ego, saying that, oh, this is my work, don't you dare change it. That doesn't work. I've never felt that way. I do feel like, I mean, for me, it's important to be acknowledged as the creator of the work. And I think as long as they do that, I'm more or less happy with whatever. I mean, the trailer was so thrilling to see, because you could immediately recognize it that it's been adapted from my book. Main points were at least there, So it's coming
Is
out
there
well.
is there anything, you told me like before we start recording that this is also the first time you're gonna see it,
Yeah.
beyond, like, as a whole.
Yeah.
Are there any scenes or character quirks, etc., that you hope are captured or hope are not lost in this translation from books to screen?
So I don't know if you've read the book. Have you read the book?
Parts of it, parts of it,
Parts of it, okay.
parts of it.
So, this old lady is the antagonist, which is being played by Suhasini Mulay. But in the book, the screen adaptation has changed quite a few things, I'm sure. So I kind of I'm eager to see Asmara and, Dadi's interaction with each other, because that in the book, that kind of was what it led to a lot of conflict all around, their interaction. So I am quite excited to see how it plays out on screen. We saw a bit of it in the trailer also. So
I was going to say that, yeah, there's a glimpse of that,
yeah.
in the trailer. But yeah, it's an exciting thing. In terms of, I was reading through interviews of other interviews you've given regarding this, and you mentioned that you also went on set one day. Can you talk about that? Because, like, I find, like, you also mentioned how writing is so isolating, and then you see this intensely collaborative process happening to
Yeah.
put that story to life, to bring it together. I mean, and this is not even considering all the post-production work that happens.
Yeah.
So what was that experience for you like?
That it felt like I was dreaming, because it was not something, I mean, I never expected to be on a set myself, like I said, it's always been long distance, considering I live in Bangalore and all this happens in Mumbai. So it was never like something I thought would happen. And I went on set, they invited me, and it was like they were shooting the finale, which happens in the 7th episode, and they wanted me there. And it was just so weird. And I mean, like 8 years ago, I came and not 8, actually 9. I wrote this book in 2015. It was published in 2016. So I came up with this idea spontaneously. And now look at this, 9 years later, there are like so many people who are working together to make this, happen. So it was just, it was a very strangely powerful feeling, like, oh, I made this happen, sort of thing, because obviously things had to start at some point. I'm not a very egotistic person, but at that moment I really felt like, I mean, I just couldn't believe that all this, because see, they had all these, so it was a night shoot, and they had all these vanity trailers everywhere, and each of them had the name of the character on it instead of the actor. So I was walking past them and I could see Asmara, I could see Farzan, the names of the characters, Nani, and and I was like, this is just weird, this is just really weird.
Do you have
So
any tips to give them about certain dialogue, certain style work?
no, I kind of, so the thing is that they were a unit, they were working together as a unit from the past 50 days at least, 40 days. I don't know how long, maybe not 40, a month at least, they've been working together. They've been doing, so they obviously had a sort of camaraderie between them. And I was definitely an outsider there. So, I was just introduced as a writer of the book. But I I'm not shy or anything, but I was not like, felt like I was out of my element over there. But it was, it was a fun thing to be a part of.
Amazing. And I mean, I don't know how much of this we can put online. We'll cut it if it's not. But a lot of your books are being considered, stories are being considered for screen. Is that right? I've seen news pieces about these stories over the years.
Yeah,
Is there any that is in active development?
No, unfortunately, so there were a few books which were optioned earlier. So that's what happens with a lot of books get optioned, they do get optioned and producers show interest. But reaching this part is like really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And it's kind of happened very organically for me. It was like I was not even looking for it, it kind of just happened.
Yeah.
And it happened, and so it's happening, and it's just yeah. So I do hope that this kind of makes people like look at more of my books with that view that they can be adapted for screen. It's because it's nice money. So and writing doesn't pay. So yeah, so nothing as of now, but whatever was there There are people who are showing interest, but I don't consider it unless, like, there is something really formal on the table. So,
Got it. Yeah, that these conversations can take forever. I know a little bit about it, not as much. I want to shift from, just Asmara, Summer to your writing
mhm.
at large. Um, I mean, we can't cover everything, but one thing I noticed is Bangalore, right? The character of the city, your relationship with the city. Now that you wrote this 8 years ago, and I'm sure you've seen Bangalore change your own space. In Bangalore, they're a household name, from what I know. Everyone knows, or has read at least one book of yours. Just talking about the city as it features in your works, your own relationship, and how it's influenced your creative journey, right? What does Bangalore mean to you? And how much of that is reflected in perhaps what Bangalore means to Asmara?
So Bangalore for me has always been home. I've always lived here. I've never lived anywhere else. And so for me, not, I think it's just happened. It's not something, I mean, consciously I didn't make the choice to just live here, but I grew up here, I got married here, continued living here, so it's never really changed. But at the same time, I think the reason why I use Bangalore in my stories is because I want to stay authentic and, write about lived experiences as opposed to writing something that, I imagine what it must be like to live in the city. So that's been for me being authentic is really important. And that is one of the reasons why I focus on Bangalore so much because it's a city I've grown up. So I've lived here since 1980, so that's not a small period of time. So that's 4 decades, 44 years, which is incredible because as a child, I was like 2 years old in 1980. So I've just grown up here and, seen Bangalore change and develop over the years. And um, the world that I wrote Asmara in is obviously very different compared to. I mean, there is a very sweet rain scene with a lot of hailstone. I'm like, yeah, please, can it happen now? Because it's so hot right now, and poor Asmara is staying on this small sort of Barsati sort of place on a nani's terrace. And if she were to do that now, she'd probably like melt, if there was no AC, if there was no, because it's impossible to stay in, So the idea for me when I wrote Asmara was, taking a girl who's, uh, uh, so in my story at least, so she's kind-hearted, but also somewhat she can be mean, sort of at times, girl into a situation that she is not comfortable in. It's not her comfort zone, and putting her there and seeing how she adapts to it, and how she creates trouble for herself and for her family, but also learns to figure out that things and people change. And and what is really important at the end of the day, whether it's the sort of brands that people wear, or the kind of people really are really are. So that was the point, that was the idea behind it. Also a lot of kind of a self journey sort of thing.
One more theme that I feel, I mean, I've read a very little percentage of your oeuvre, but one thing that I often see even when I'm reading about your works, and I keep a close tab on that, is the dynamic of this intergenerational women. Whether it's Asmara Summer, whether it's more than just biryani, and I'm sure I'm
Yeah.
missing a few others, but these are very, very vivid in my head. That's something that you highlight, and it's something that ties your works, several of your works together. Maybe they're not your, maybe not all. All 46 I haven't analyzed yet, but and I think that is very refreshingly unique because I don't think in India we talk enough about intergenerational women relationships. The father son dynamic has been explored, but the mother grandmother daughter, mother daughter dynamic has not. It's just beginning to, but you've been really writing about it for a while. Um,
Right from my first book.
right from your first
Yeah.
book, yeah. So, which also means that dynamic changes perhaps as you age. as you see
Definitely.
different,
Yeah. Yeah.
so how, is that, are those observations you make conscious? How do you, how do you perhaps navigate your own equations of the people, and how is that connected to your work? So if you can talk a little bit about this theme that ties so much of your work together.
So I think when you're growing up, everyone goes through this rebellious phase, and I also did. But then, like many other girls, I was also this sort of rebel without a cause. I didn't know what I was rebelling against. But at the same time, I also wanted to, please my mother and conform to what she wanted. But it felt like no matter what I did, she wouldn't be pleased. So I think my equation with my mother changed when I became a mother. And I was very early in life. I became a mother when I was 20. So it kind of changed my perception of her. But at the same time, I think the reason why there are so many different generational aspects about women, which feature in my book, is because I'm very observant of how things play out in families, how certain women, expand to include the family, to like, I don't know of that many matriarchs sort of thing who kind of rule the family, but I do, so I kind of do notice a lot of things, a lot of women who kind of contract themselves so that they do not cause trouble for others. And a lot of those things have played into my mind very subconsciously. So the things that have featured in my books, most of them have happened very subconsciously. In my latest book, The Henna Startup, which was published by Duckbill, this, again, it's about a mother and a daughter. And this daughter is sort of, so the thing is that, I feel that the world of Asmara and the world of Abir are kind of polar opposites, in the sense that Asmara comes from this upper middle class family, looks down at everything. And in this book, Abir is the opposite, where she has this reverse snobbery thing. She is an extremely brilliant student and she wants to get her family out of this whole thing of, being in a middle class living situation. And she wants to do it through her education. And no one is stopping that in her family. And her mother is a henna artist. And, so there is this one instant which kind of sets the story moving forward, when her mother is not paid her dues by a rich woman. And the way that these two women react to it, to these, like, the way Abir reacts to it and the way her mother reacts to it, is very telling of how generations, women across generations react to the same thing. Like Abir's mother got married when she was early, and she expects Abir to do the same. Like, I went through this, why won't you? And, we want to find someone who is supportive of you, like how your father was supportive of me, So I really did not want to bring in this whole idea of this oppressive father who, the parents do want her to get married, but they're not like, stopping her from getting educated or anything. It's just another important concern for them. And Abir is like, I can do all this on my own without having a husband to support me, So the way, like, her mother expects to get married at a certain age, and Abir does not want that. Her mother accepts this, the humiliation of not being paid and being told to leave. And Abir goes and she fights with that same woman, threatens to expose her on Instagram or something, and she gets the money. So, it's a lot of, I think, an interplay between Gen X and Gen Z, definitely, at least in the Henna Startup. But in my other books also, like you rightly pointed out, I think there is a lot of, there is so much to explore, women who have, over the years, who have wanted to do something, but were held back for, because of society, family, marriage, children. And there are some who want to see that happen for the younger generation. And there's some who feel like, we didn't get to do it, so why should you? So that sort of thing. So I find that very fascinating, and I kind of, try to bring it into, like, Jasmine Villa. There was no mother in it. There were mother-in-laws. And I kind of find it very fascinating to play into different, the way people react to situations and all that. So
Yeah, I find, and that is the thing that, attracts me most about yours to be just start a publishing house. And I keep thinking, yeah, this is the kind of story I'd like to publish. I'd like to bring out these observances that, maybe we do see it in our lives, but we don't pay enough attention to write about or talk about or explore it a little more. Go a
hmm,
little further than just saying, oh, ye to aisa hi hota hai, or this is the dynamic, but
yeah.
not peeling back the layers of why certain dynamics exist. Often, and it's just a, like mother daughter thing, example wise, right? Like mother, there are these stories I've read where mothers and daughters have tips because simply the mother wants to do what probably the daughter is doing. Like there are these,
Hmm,
there are these, I don't want to say tropes, but motivations, psychological motivations that guide behaviors. And I don't think we explore enough of how women's history and
yeah.
context changes their behavior. So I love that about your stories. Just to kind of wrap up,
Hmm.
I'm very interested. A, because you're always writing. How do you find, if you find any time to read at all? And other authors, other kinds of stories, what is it you seek out as a reader, of course, besides what you are writing, or the spaces that you write in.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's more about your your interests as a reader. We know as a writer, the endless
I read
road.
a lot. I read. I'm part of a book club as well, and and I read. I have Kindle Unlimited, so there's like always a lot of romance in my Kindle, So, and then I read whatever. I don't read nonfiction, but apart from that, I read everything else. Not a
Love that.
huge fan of science fiction as such. Um, I like simple stories, they can jump into immediately. I don't like very complex stuff. And maybe, one day I'm in the mood for something of that sort and I will read it. But I'm always surrounded by books. And I also listen to a lot of audiobooks because that is where a lot of my um, I kind of I am so reading is like so in such an integral part of my life. I keep telling people this really did happen, So when I got admitted to the hospital for COVID, I just took my phone, my charger. This was a time when you weren't really getting hospital beds, and it was nothing short of a miracle. My mother-in-law and I got a hospital bed in the same hospital, same floor, everything. I just asked her to take her medicines. I took my phone, I took my charger, and I took my Kindle. And I didn't even take my toothbrush. I didn't take a change of clothes. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking, what, this is one vacation for reading or something. When I reached there, I realized, oh God, this, the COVID time hospitals situation was really bad. I had to call my husband. I told him, please put my toothbrush and these things and this thing and that, everything. And I made him pack all that and send it to me. He's like, what were you doing? When you left, what were you doing? I said, I don't know. I just used the excuse of COVID. I'm my COVID brain. I wasn't thinking. But for me, books are like that important. I will have a book with me no matter where I'm going. And audiobooks are something I discovered in the past 2-3 years, especially when I'm doing any sort of chores at home, cooking, putting clothes to dry, folding clothes, anything that requires my brain to not work, it's when I'm listening to an audiobook. So I've heard so many books, and I really could not get into listening to audiobooks until I figured out that this is the perfect way to get, reading done, even though when you're not actually reading it, but you're listening to it. So
I should take tips from you because I'm yet to get into that. But I relate to what you said. Because for the longest time, I used to carry like like I would have a sling bag, which was, everyone knows, I called it my survival kit, in which there would be always at least two books. This was before I owned the Kindle. I
uh,
would always have at least two books because I'm like, if I am stranded somewhere,
yeah.
I would have to stay sane. I could, we could wash up using whatever water and everything, but I would have to stay sane in my brain. For that, I need my books. So I completely get,
Yeah.
books and stories being like the kind of anchoring lifeblood.
Like the moment I get to know that I have to travel somewhere, especially domestically, and if I know that I'm going by flight, then I immediately look at the time and see how much I can accomplish reading in that time. So reading is that crucial.
Not until you travel do you realize just how much of a myth it is that reading takes time. Once you get into it, I feel like I finish a book almost as fast as I finish a movie. It's just about, I think that's intent focus. I don't know if you feel the same.
No, I get distracted also very easily. So on the flight, it's not easy to get distracted. But
Which is why I'm
yeah,
saying, like, only in flights you
yeah.
realize that, you
So
know what, actually, if you do give books the same
yeah.
focus as cinema, you're not really wasting that much more time.
So since you were asking about the kind of books I read, I enjoy romance, but at the same time, sometimes I get very bored of it. So I really like crime stories.
Any
Like
favorites or stuff
so
that authors you
I like
return
the
to?
sort of books that Lisa Joel writes, or there's this other author. One sec, I will just check and tell you. Called Gillian McAllister. So, there are a lot of these similar. I've read so many, I've heard so many. Right now, I'm listening to the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. She's the one who wrote that Good Girl's Guide to Murder.
Yeah.
I listened to all three books on Storytel, so. Uh, so I'm a huge audiobook thing. So
Wow.
I mean, I get so much reading done then. Especially, I used to listen to books only when I would go on a walk, and sometimes that would not happen that often. So this is when I kind of, get my reading done, listening done. So
Very cool. I really should, outside of this, I'll take some tips on audiobooks. Because I feel like I want to get into it, but I just somehow drop off the first chapter or
no,
second
it's very
chapter.
easy to get distracted, very easy to lose focus. So
Yeah,
the trick is to be doing something else. So
got
that
it.
you're doing something
Interesting.
else,
I'll give
you're
that a shot.
cooking and you're listening. So, it kind of I've developed that system for me, so it works. Now it's become like I can't cook if there's no audiobook.
I have that with shows sometimes, they run as podcasts in the background. Yeah, I guess it's the same logic with a different platform. But that's been amazing. I'm so excited for tomorrow,
Yes,
for you, for us, for everybody to
yes.
experience your world of stories. Hopefully, the first of many worlds of
Hopefully.
stories that come to screen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the time. I know we had a bit
Thank
of a
you.
scheduling back and forth, but I'm glad it happened. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I enjoyed
Thank
this
you.
conversation so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Anu.
Prakriti.
To
Sure.
everybody, links to her work, to Asmara Summer especially, will be there in the description. Check out and read her work if you haven't. You're missing out. Thank you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Bye.